kind of out of nowhere, the Pirates made a trade yesterday. And it was for a major league hitter, something the Pirates are looking at, a middle infielder of that. And it came from Boston, shockingly. Boston, a team that Ben Cherington is very familiar with. And they gave up a 19th rounder, the 19th round pick from last year. Hasn't really seen a day in the minor leagues anywhere. Gets drafted and says, "See you later, buddy. We don't need you." I think there's a couple layers to this, but yeah. So again, Enmanuel Valdez is the player that the Pirates traded for, and they got 25-year-old, like I mentioned, middle infielder. Has an option left. So, like how we do things, Jim. What was your initial reaction when seeing this?
Initial reaction was just, I understand like making depth moves are a thing, right? Like you have to do them. You need depth. Every team does stuff like this, but I feel like every time you're like wanting something to happen, this is just the kind of move that we get, and it's just so underwhelming. I mean, listen, this guy's a left-handed hitting middle infielder. He can play a little bit of corner outfield. I mean, he's done it in the past, not a ton, but like a few games here, a few games there. For the most part, this dude is a second baseman and a third baseman. And he's not a very good one at that. He's a rather poor fielding infielder. He was in the third percentile last year in outs above average. He was in the 6th percentile in arm strength. So, like, good luck really putting him anywhere other than second base. But even when he's there, like, it's a rough performance. I guess if there's one thing to sort of be excited about, it's, he does have a little bit of pop. He's got 12 major league home runs and 340 at bats. But outside that, like, there's nothing else here to be excited about. It's not enough power to make up for his lack of hitting and on base skills and lack of fielding. So like he's my initial thought here was, okay, if this is a direct depth replacement for G1 Bay, then sure, cool. But like, that's such a low bar. I mean, it's like if this guy is a replacement for the guy who's given you like -1 WAR over the last 2 seasons, then sure. But like that's it. Like again, like how many of these guys do you really need on your team? The Pirates have a bunch of guys like this where they're fringy bench bats, like fringe bench bats by the
Right.
definition of the word.
Right.
And I mean, that's what he is. He's someone who, if you need someone in a pinch to be your backup infielder, he can technically do the job.
It's tough, man. Again, we're talking about initial reactions here, and my initial reaction just first off, who both ends, like who is this other guy as well? And it's funny, it's like I'll go to Fangraphs immediately and type in the name, and he couldn't even be found. He's like not even in the database. So like, what is going on? This is weird. Let me try Baseball Reference. I put him in Baseball Reference, and then he pops up. Not by because I type in his name and he comes up as an option. It's because I had to hit enter, and it goes to the page, and there's nothing there. It's all college stuff. And I was like, oh, he was last year's draft pick, and he hasn't played any minor league games with the Pirate system. So my initial reaction was, okay, now here's the thing, too. I know I've read Enmanuel Valdez's name because I looked at the Boston Red Sox's 40-man at one point in time recently. Just talking about trades, we were talking about options like Mitch Keller. Boston was a team that, I felt like this trade of like a Jared Jones, Mitch Keller could possibly happen. Yeah. So that's how I remember the name of. It's like, oh, I know he's a player, but he was just traded for a 19th rounder that hasn't seen the minor leagues yet. That tells me his value right there. teams are like, wait, our 18th rounder? We're not going to go that deep into our pockets here. So that was my initial reaction. Now, like looking into it's like, okay, so let me put on the actual NS9 cap here. How am I going to talk about this? And I go to his Baseball Savant page. I go to his, baseball reference page, his fan graphs and all that. I'm looking at it, and it's like, you know what? Technically speaking, you want to call this a win? It's a win. Like, this is a guy who's reached the major leagues for a person who's probably never going to reach AAA. Like, in a vacuum, it's a win. It's a win. Like, you traded your 19th rounder last year for a guy who can play in the major leagues to some level of degree.
Technically speaking, yeah.
Technically speaking. So yes, the trade is a win. But it's like, and I'll talk more of the player itself later after you. But it's like, at what point, I mean, this is 6 years. This is year number 6 for Ben Cherington. 5 years he's been collecting middle infielder after middle infielder after middle infielder. Like, you should have Enmanuel Valdez all throughout your system. If you're still needing to trade, like, if you have to trade your 19th rounder to give yourself middle infield depth at this point, that says a lot about you right now. That's my thing. And again, like, the trade's fine. Like, the trade's fine. I'm not poo-pooing the trade. I can't believe, like, it's a whatever move. It's a whatever move. I could care less if this trade happened. It's just the point that it's like, your 19th rounder had value for your major, like, your thought process on this depth. Again, how many middle infielders have you collected? And, like, you're still doing this. You should have Enmanuel Valdez already stocked, ready to go. Whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, they do. Like, they've got plenty of guys like this just sitting around. Tristan Gray, who was acquired earlier this offseason. Again, G1 Bay is a player to this effect. They've got plenty of these guys. You mentioned, in a vacuum, the steal's fine. Yeah, like you said. I mean, you traded your 19th round pick, who's probably not going to make the majors, and you got a by definition of the word, you got a major leaguer in return, right? In a vacuum, this trade is just fine. And I feel like a lot of trades and moves that the Pirates make are fine in a vacuum, right? The problem is when all you do are things that are fine in a vacuum. Eventually, your team starts taking on the characteristics of an actual vacuum. And guess what vacuums do, Donardo? They suck. They suck, right? So it's like, yeah, this move's fine, but, like, when you just keep doing moves like this, you suck. Like, this is like you said, it's a nothing move. It's a nothing move. It's not a move to get excited about. It's not a move to get upset about. It's a move that happened. Enmanuel Valdez by no means should break camp with the major league team. He's your AAA second baseman. Like, he's Indianapolis's second baseman, probably. Part-time second baseman, probably.
Right. It's just kind of funny because we're talking about, is this G1 Bay's, like, replacement? Jesus, can we step up from G1 Bay?
Right.
I honestly look at this and I'm like, you might have to argue who's better. Like, is this actually his replacement? Because I'm not even quite sure. I just feel like, I guess they do things better or differently. I should say, not better. Some things do. Like, G1 Bay certainly is fast. This guy, not so much. G1 Bay is certainly athletic. I'm not saying this guy's not athletic, but G1 Bay should be a better defender than what he is. Like, especially in the outfield. I feel like that could come. This guy, I doubt. I just doubt. He's actually not even good at second base either. You know, like you look at defensive run saved, it's negative, negative, negative. He's not have a whole lot of play time there either. But like G1 Bay is like just purely a slap hitter, more or less. Like there's no power. When I look at this guy, you know, the hit tool, understand the level of fascination I'm talking about, kind of fascinates me. Like he does barrel the baseball. Now he doesn't hit it all that hard. I mean, just barely right at league average. Like all his expected numbers aren't really there. His actual numbers aren't there for sure either, right? So, but like he does barrel up the baseball, and like you mentioned, he is a lefty hitter. Some of the Pirates certainly can use. So again, like that's why I don't give up your 19th rounder. Like I don't hate the trade. I just hate like the idea of the trade at this point in time. You still have to worry about like this nothing depth when we still have some real issues out there. And again, there's another thing too. Like every team does this. This isn't just exclusive to the Pirates. This is like every team's going to do these type of things to some level of degree, right? But like yeah, it's just most teams do things that are at a higher level of this to that degree also.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's he's on the 40-man. We may see him at some point this year, you know, if there's injuries or something. But you don't really want that. Let's just say that.
Right.
I think that's enough words about Enmanuel Valdez.
Okay. That's fair. Should we talk about what the Red Sox got in this deal? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Joe Vogatsky goes, hey, best of luck in the Boston organization.
There you go. Thanks,
Pittsburgh
Joe.
Pirates era, July 2024 to December 2024, 0 innings pitched.
Pirates legend, Joe.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So Enmanuel Valdez is a Pittsburgh Pirate.